What happens when a superpower pumps $24 billion into highways, railroads, and Arctic trade routes? It's not just about roads, it's about control. Russia is building more than just infrastructure, it's constructing a new world order. With sanctions biting and Arctic ice melting, Moscow is investing heavily to reshape trade, military mobility, and its global image. But is this visionary planning or strategic overreach? Today, we explore the ambition, controversy, and consequences behind Russia's bold megaprojects. Stick around, because this story dives deeper than concrete and steel. Back in 2018, the Russian government rolled out one of its most ambitious infrastructure blueprints in decades. A whopping 1.6 trillion rubles, equivalent to around $24 billion at the time, was earmarked for national development over a 3-year period. So, what's driving this colossal investment? Firstly, we have the Arctic opportunity with the Northern Sea Route project. Russia's leadership sees opportunity in the melting Arctic. As ice recedes, a new maritime highway is emerging, the Northern Sea Route, or NSR. This shortcut slashes the travel distance between Europe and Asia by thousands of kilometers compared to the Suez Canal. By investing in Arctic ports and railways, Russia hopes to dominate this corridor. Think of it as building a toll booth on one of the world's future trade superhighways, controlling access, collecting transit fees, and gaining leverage in global logistics. Secondly, Russia plans on unifying a vast and fragmented nation. Beyond the Arctic, the plan includes more than 170 major infrastructure projects. The goal? To connect Russia's vast, scattered territories, from the bustling metropolises to far-flung towns often left behind in national growth. Whether it's roads in Siberia or runways in the Far East, this is about stitching together a massive, often disconnected landmass. It's a move aimed at stimulating domestic commerce, improving military logistics, and giving isolated regions better access to the national economy. Another reason is surviving sanctions through internal growth. Russia's economy has taken repeated hits from Western sanctions, especially after 2014 and then again following the invasion of Ukraine. With limited access to global markets, Moscow is doubling down on internal growth. By building infrastructure, the state creates jobs, keeps money circulating within its borders, and attempts to counteract the economic chokehold imposed from outside. It's both a survival tactic and a long-term vision for independence. But, as with any mega project, these plans haven't come without friction and some major red flags. At this point, let's look closer at some of the standout projects in this $24 billion push. These aren't just roads and rails. They are statements of power, ambition, and, some would say, favoritism. At number 1, we have the Moscow to St. Petersburg high-speed rail. One of the most ambitious and highly discussed infrastructure projects in modern Russia is the development of the high-speed rail line connecting the country's 2 largest and most important cities, Moscow and St. Petersburg. Designed to drastically cut down travel time between the 2 cities, this railway stands as a centerpiece in Russia's broader efforts to modernize its transportation systems and showcase technological prowess on the world stage. Estimated to cost over 2.3 trillion rubles, approximately $25.97 billion, the high-speed rail promises to become one of the most expensive railway endeavors in Russian history. Trains on this line are projected to reach speeds of up to 400 kilometers per hour, which will significantly reduce the current journey time of around 4 hours to under 2. Such a leap in transportation efficiency has the potential to reshape travel, business, and commerce between these 2 economic powerhouses. However, this project's story is not without controversy. Initially, the high-speed route was planned to extend from Moscow toward Nizhny Novgorod, a key industrial city, but that plan was unexpectedly revised. The route was redirected to prioritize a direct connection with St. Petersburg, notably President Vladimir Putin's hometown. This sudden pivot sparked debates across political and economic circles in Russia. Was this shift driven by logistics, strategic economic interest, or a display of political favoritism? Critics didn't hesitate to raise concerns. They argue that such decisions reflect a broader pattern in Russian infrastructure planning, where national priorities can be influenced by personal affiliations or political motivations. Nonetheless, supporters view the project as a symbol of Russia's aspirations for modernization and a potential blueprint for future high-speed rail systems across Eastern Europe and Central Asia. Despite the shadow of political influence, the Bos Railway is widely seen as a technological leap forward. Coming in at number 2, we have the Jubga Sochi Coastal Highway. Stretching along the picturesque coastline of the Black Sea, the Jubga Sochi Coastal Highway is far more than a scenic route. It plays a critical role in easing congestion in one of Russia's most popular tourist corridors, especially around Sochi, a city that has come to symbolize Russia's international hospitality following its hosting of the 2014 Winter Olympics. With a budget estimated at around 1 trillion rubles, this highway project was developed with the purpose of improving transport access to Russia's southern resort regions. For decades, this area suffered from outdated infrastructure, particularly during tourist seasons, when bottlenecks could last hours. The highway was meant to remedy that problem by offering a faster, safer, and more scenic alternative to older mountain routes. However, the project was soon entangled in controversy. The construction contract was awarded to a company owned by Arkady Rotenberg, a billionaire businessman and close personal friend of President Putin. This connection quickly triggered allegations of crony capitalism, a phenomenon where state, contracts, and resources are funneled toward political allies. Such accusations are not new in the context of Russian megaprojects. While the highway certainly fulfills a public need, many Russians have grown accustomed to seeing grand infrastructure, plans accompanied by behind-the-scenes power plays. For critics, the highway is not just a road. It's a symbol of how public wealth often intersects with private connections in today's Russia. And at number 3, the Arctic Railway, also known as the Bovanenkovo to Sabeta Railway. Perhaps the boldest of all Russia's modern infrastructure ventures is the Arctic Railway, officially known as the Bovanenkovo to Sabeta Railway. Spanning approximately 170 kilometers, this rail line cuts through some of the most inhospitable terrain on Earth, the frozen tundras of the Yamal Peninsula. But despite the brutal climate, this railway serves a crucial strategic goal. The MON's purpose is to facilitate the transportation of liquefied natural gas, LNG, from the gas-rich Bovanenkovo region directly to the Arctic port of Sabeta. This would enhance Russia's ability to ship LNG along the Northern Sea Route, NSR, a vital maritime corridor that is becoming increasingly important due to melting Arctic ice and growing interest in polar shipping routes. Yet, the Arctic Railway is surrounded by uncertainties. The project is not listed in the official state budget, and its success largely depends on private capital investment. This financial structure raises significant concerns about transparency, oversight, and long-term sustainability. What happens if private partners back out or fail to deliver? Beyond economics, the Arctic carries heavy geopolitical weight. By building deep into the tundra, Russia sends a deliberate message to the world. This isn't just remote territory. It's a key part of the national economy and military doctrine. The Arctic Railway thus functions as both a logistical tool and a political statement, affirming Russia's claim to and investment in its northern frontier. Many countries build infrastructure to grow, but Russia, it's building to project power. The Northern Sea Route may soon become the crown jewel of global trade. Unlike the Suez or Panama canals, which pass through geopolitically vulnerable regions, the NSR is under Russian control. If Russia can establish reliable, ice-resistant shipping lanes, it can demand transit fees and enforce regulatory power over one of the 21st century's most critical routes. Already, Moscow is investing in icebreaker fleets, Arctic ports, and radar installations along the NSR. It's part infrastructure, part military posturing. Alongside the transportation projects, there's a clear military parallel. Airfields are being rebuilt. Missile defense systems are being stationed in newly developed Arctic zones. Russia is not just building to deliver goods, it's building to deliver force. This dual-use approach, civilian infrastructure that doubles as strategic military assets, makes it clear roads and railways are part of Russia's defense policy. Is China helping Russia with these projects? China, through its Polar Silk Road initiative, has become a key investor in Russia's Arctic vision. One major example is the Yamal LNG project, where Chinese capital and engineering have been deeply involved. Beijing's goals are strategic: gain access to Arctic energy, diversify trade routes, and deepen ties with Russia, especially as both nations face strained relations with the West. This growing alliance is redrawing economic maps and military calculations. The Arctic, once a frozen frontier, is heating up in more ways than one. The role of sanctions and economic isolation in Russia projects. No discussion about Russia's infrastructure overhaul is complete without considering the impact of international sanctions. Since 2014, following the annexation of Crimea, Russia has faced waves of sanctions from the US, European Union, and other global powers. These sanctions have restricted access to foreign capital and advanced technologies, especially in energy and infrastructure sectors. So, how is Russia funding this massive transformation? To adapt, Russia has pivoted to domestic industries and strengthened ties with non-Western allies. A key partner in this shift has been China. Beijing's involvement in the Yamal LNG project, as well as other infrastructure investments, has provided Russia with alternative financial and technical support. Moscow has also implemented import substitution policies to encourage domestic manufacturing and reduce reliance on Western technology. While this has yielded some success, it has also led to higher costs, delays, and a dependency on less efficient domestic alternatives. Moreover, some projects, like the Arctic Railway, from Bovanenkovo to Sabeta, remain outside the official state budget. Instead, they rely heavily on private investors, both foreign and local, raising questions about transparency, sustainability, and the long-term economic feasibility of these ventures. So while Russia's strategy may allow it to bypass Western roadblocks, it comes with increased financial risks and slower execution timelines. Let's now look at regional winners and losers. One of the biggest criticisms leveled against Russia's infrastructure megaprojects is the unequal regional distribution of benefits. While cities like Moscow, St. Petersburg, and Sochi receive massive investments, many remote and underdeveloped regions remain left behind. Take Siberia, for example. Rich in resources but lacking in basic infrastructure, the region holds immense potential, yet funding has been minimal and connectivity remains limited. Critics argue that instead of building flashy new railways or highways, the government should prioritize upgrading rural roads, schools, and hospitals. This disparity has sparked frustration among local populations who see infrastructure spending as a tool for political showmanship rather than national development. In some areas, the situation has fueled calls for regional autonomy and greater local control over budgets. Worse still, there are concerns that the emphasis on infrastructure linked to military and export interests sidelines the average Russian citizen's daily needs, like access to clean water, affordable housing, and reliable healthcare. Without a more balanced investment strategy, Russia's infrastructure transformation could deepen existing inequalities rather than alleviate them. Let's look at some challenges Russia faces in bringing these projects to life. Transparency remains one of the most persistent issues plaguing Russia's infrastructure push. Many contracts have been awarded without competitive bidding, often going to companies linked to influential oligarchs. One high-profile example is the Jubga Sochi highway project, awarded to Arkady Rotenberg, a childhood friend of Vladimir Putin. While officially intended to relieve traffic congestion in the Black Sea resort areas, the project's cost overruns and lack of public accountability have led to widespread allegations of cronyism. Similarly, delays and inflated budgets plague other megaprojects as well. The Moscow-St. Petersburg high-speed rail line, initially projected at around $15 billion, is now estimated to cost nearly $26 billion, with little clarity on where the extra funds are going. For international investors, this murky environment increases the risk of doing business in Russia, which in turn limits future funding opportunities. For Russian taxpayers, it creates resentment and mistrust. Experts argue that unless the Russian government enforces stricter anti-corruption measures and greater financial transparency, these ambitious infrastructure goals may never be fully realized. So, where does this leave us? Is Russia's $24 billion infrastructure revolution a masterstroke of strategic foresight, or is it a high-stakes gamble riddled with pitfalls? On the one hand, if successfully executed, these projects could catapult Russia into a new era of economic resilience and geopolitical relevance. Improved trade routes, military mobility, and energy exports could bolster its influence on the global stage. But on the other hand, financial mismanagement, corruption, and regional inequality could undermine these benefits. Without transparency, equitable investment, and long-term sustainability, these megaprojects risk becoming symbols of ambition gone awry. International observers are watching closely. For many, the outcome of Russia's infrastructure gamble could offer broader lessons about how nations can or cannot build their way to power in the 21st century. Russia's $24 billion infrastructure push is more than just an upgrade. It's a statement to the world. It's about strategy, survival, and ambition in an increasingly unpredictable global landscape. While the benefits, job creation, improved trade routes, and military mobility, could be massive, so too are the risks: corruption, inequality, and financial instability. Will this mega project truly elevate Russia's standing, or will it expose deeper fractures within its system? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you appreciate thoughtful content like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's biggest stories.